Hey everyone, welcome to the next episode of the Belinda Carr Show. Today we're going to be talking about modular construction. So I haven't made a video on modular construction yet, just because it's such a broad topic, all-encompassing topic. I don't know where to begin.
Yeah, I feel like you made a video on different things that can be considered modular construction, in particular shipping containers.
Yeah, but then there's a whole prefab world. Can you consider manufactured homes to be modular construction?
I don't know. Modular is so broad. That brings me to my question for you, Belinda. What does modular mean? And what does it mean to you?
It means so many things. I mean, it has different meanings in the plumbing field, the electrical field, the architecture design field. But if we think about it just in terms of construction, it could be just like a panelized modular system that can be used to create a home. It could be, on a larger scale, a unit that can, when put together with several other units, can be used to create a home or an apartment building or a hotel.
Some sort of building, yeah.
Yeah. So modular construction it's just so hard to define.
If you break it down to the essence, like what is modular?
It's repeating unit.
Yeah.
Kitchen cabinets are in a way modular.
Yeah.
Like the IKEA, the way you design kitchen cabinets on IKEA, you put in this slot in this space, and that's how you create your kitchen layout. That's modular design.
So it's like different pieces that come together to make a whole system,
rather than custom pieces.
But it's not like a wall where it's different pieces that come together to make a wall system. It's
repeating units.
Yeah, repeating units.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like people, when they think of modular construction, they think of tiny homes, or they'll think of simply contemporary modern homes that have flat roofs and like metal siding or something, or they'll think of like a container home.
It's always a cuboid.
And it's always contemporary.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a big reason why it's not widely accepted.
Because everyone talks about it. Everyone thinks about it as the holy grail that you want to get to, but you can't get there.
You're saying everyone in the construction industry?
Construction industry, and then just people outside the industry that want to build a home. They think, the prefab, the modular, it just fascinates people. The idea that you can, all the hard work and the dirty work is done behind the scenes, and you see these clean panels that come together to make like these boxes that fit in so perfectly. Legos, my gosh, the number of time I've heard people talk about Legos in construction. If a building or a home could be put together like Legos.
So like take, for example, ICF blocks. Is that modular construction because you're using a module to create your home? Technically, yes. And I think modular has a lot of different subsects within it. So a show that we really like to watch is Grand Designs. And we've watched a few seasons of that. And it seems like the majority of their construction projects, their home projects, are created from modules, or they're SIPs, or there's some sort of prefabricated unit that they bring onto site to construct the home quickly.
Yes, you're right. A lot of modular prefab houses shown on Grand Designs and shows similar to that. But I think that's also them seeking out clients that want to build that way because they know their audience.
Yeah, who wants to show off a traditional suburban home?
There are so many unique things you can do with traditional construction at a different level.
Things you don't see.
Yeah, but that's not appealing to people. Again, seeing the prefabricated panels or prefabricated cuboids come together and slot together is fascinating to a viewer.
Or seeing your house go up in 1 to 3 days.
Yeah, even though it's taken much longer to build those panels in a factory. So that's why shows like Grand Designs pick on or trying to find clients like that, just because it's appealing. So to learn a little bit more about modular construction and change our misconceptions about modular design, I spoke to an industry expert who has been in the field for several decades. Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking to Ken Semler from Impresa Modular. Ken is an expert in the modular construction industry. He's been in it for decades, so he's going to share some useful and helpful insights with all of us. Thanks for joining us, Ken.
Thanks for having me.
So, tell us a little bit about your background, how long you've been in the industry, and what motivated you to get into it.
Okay. I started actually years ago. I really got into this business not from the builder side, but from a remodeler side. I had I'm going to say a side business. I had a day job originally, and I got into it as a hobby. I wouldn't say a hobby, an investment, doing rehab remodel. So I would buy houses and rehab and remodel them, and then either sell them or rehab, remodel, and rent them. And I had that going, and the boom took off in about 2003. And
The
the housing,
construction boom or the modular boom?
the construction
The
boom.
construction. Okay.
Yeah, the construction boom really took off, just the home building, in about 2002, 2003. And I was doing a lot of this work, and so I had somebody start asking me, "Hey, would you build a home for me?" And I had grown enough where I was probably doing, and I actually even started doing this with manufactured homes, but I would buy 3 to 15 homes a month, and I had crews doing the rehab remodels. So as I looked around and tried to figure out, the most effective way to get into the new home construction business, modular made the most sense because it was really the same skills that my guys already had. It was a little bit of drywall, a little bit of trim, a little bit of, my guys that actually doing the rehab remodel were really like punch out guys. They could do everything. And so modular construction fit the bill. So in 2004, I think was the year that we officially started buying homes with one of the manufacturers in Pennsylvania. And it took off. I think within 8 months, we were like their third top largest builder in 8 months, and selling outside of the Washington, D.C. area. And it just took off, and it eventually grew. But like everybody else, 2008 got here, and we were growing rapidly, and then it turned off like a faucet. And I tell people I did the smartest and dumbest thing I did in 2008. I spent a large amount of money on a 10-acre parcel in an industrial park and was putting up a 14 model supercenter in 2008. That turned out
Whoops.
not to be a good idea. But what I did was, knowing it was a large regional sales center, I'd created an internet-y name called Express Modular. And when the bust happened, and luckily I had contracts with the local education, the schools, and we did the modular classrooms and had done, the relocations for them over the years. They were the relocatable. And in 2009, with the loss of tax revenue, they ordered, I did $1 million worth of business with them in 8 weeks that summer, which really kept the business alive and going. And then in 2010, I started a website called I took the website that we had created and actually started to expand it, called it Express Modular. And that's really what grew, Belinda. I mean, with the internet and my skills on the website, we grew the website. And then I decided I wanted to become the first nationwide modular builder. And so from 2010 to 2015, I methodically worked my way across the country. I'm probably the most tested contractor in the country. I started doing I would go into the states. I would do 5 to 8 states a year. I would get the corporation set up. I would take the contractor licensing test, get all the tax stuff taken care of. I would set up relationships with modular factories, get a salesperson to handle that territory, or multiple salespeople. And from 2010 to 2015, I methodically worked my way to where I was a licensed, registered, certified contractor from Maine to California and from Florida to Washington State. And then it was busy. The website was really cranking, and I started then. Next was, what do I do more? How can I get deeper penetration? Because I could only do design, order, delivery, and set, of custom homes. We were doing primarily custom residential homes through the battle network of 20 to 25 factories.
And I'm
And
sorry, you were using other people's local factories at each of these
yes,
states? Okay.
yes. So what happens is, I mean, I'm sitting right now in our factory in South Carolina, Impresa Building Systems, but you know, to get large and scale quickly, I had to do it on the backs of factories that we still have a great partnership factory network across the country, that we were doing custom homes. So again, we set up relationships with those custom home factories, and we weren't doing turnkey construction at that point. We were actually again, doing design, order, delivery, and set. So we had to always partner with somebody. And it made it harder because a lot of people didn't want to have to deal with two contracts, a site contractor and a modular contractor. But it allowed me to scale quickly, get that coverage across the United States, get those relationships in place, build our construction volume. And then it was busy. You know, we were fortunate, things were going well, but I knew I had to come up with a better way to get deep. And we started looking at licensing or franchising. And so in 2019, we took the effort, made the plunge. I hired a person to be our director of franchise development. We did all the paperwork, which is, you know, this much paperwork, and did everything we needed to do. So we became a franchisor in 42 states. And so we primarily started in the Northeast or the Mid Atlantic, from South Carolina to Michigan to Maine. And we've started franchising. We rolled it out at the International Builder Show, which we'll be at next week. And we rolled it out in 2020 and promptly came back 4 weeks later to COVID. And so that really stalled 2020 with the expansion of franchising. But we, in January 1st of 2021, we got our first franchisee on board. We brought our second franchisee on board, and at the International Builder Show, we'll have our third franchisee there that just bought multiple territories.
That's awesome.
And we have several more. So that, you know, it's really, we are a builder in a box. We give people in a local area the ability to enter modular construction, have our sales support for with our website, because nobody, I mean, I tell people take the modular challenge, is go out and type in modular homes in any city, state, and we typically show up as 1, 2, or 3. And so we give people a huge marketing boost in any area, and we support through, you know, mentorship and support training to get people up to speed quickly and successfully in modular construction.
So do you guide people throughout the entire process? You all have certain designs that you can offer people, or you accept their designs as well, and then you modularize it and then take it all the way through to installation?
We do both. And so we've trained, you know, in the Martinsburg area, I have what we call a company-owned franchise in Martinsburg, West Virginia. We have one here starting, and I happen to be sitting in South Carolina today at our factory. And we have a factory-owned franchise that we're starting here, in addition to our other, you know, third-party owned franchisees. And so, but we take people through the process. We have online training. We have a mentorship. I mean, I actually personally take phone calls, you know, every Monday. So there's a question answer session, so they have support. And at every set, we actually, which is the key part, because if anything's going to happen badly in modular, it's during that set if it wasn't done properly. And so we have somebody from our team at each one of the sets, as well as the franchisee gets to attend sets around their region, so they feel comfortable that the first set that they see isn't theirs. They feel like they've got some experience going into it before it counts for them.
So you've been in this industry since 2008. How has it changed since then?
Well, I've been in it since, like I say, about 2003, 2004. We redesigned ourselves in 2008 after the Great Recession. But I think it's been an interesting change in what's happening in the industry. Is I do have a unique perspective because I work with factories across the country, and I think one of the issues with construction is people really can't fathom how big it is and how different it is geographically. The same way you would do something in Pennsylvania isn't the way you would do it in South Carolina or Florida or Illinois or Texas or you know, Washington State. And even the way we finish construction, just drywall finishes are different by region, and people don't understand all those. And then we really have 50 countries with building code, and, you know, different building codes. And so the biggest, I would say, change is, and up through 2018, 2020, in that area, the industry focused primarily on custom home building or local builder support. And we work in a fragmented industry where most builders build 5 homes a year. And that's what the modular factory supported. So they never really scaled. They were doing individual custom home plans en masse and figuring out how to do that. I think it was right about 2016, 2018, Marriott discovered modular construction, and they certified a few factories, and they decided the only way they could scale and build more hotels faster was modular. perfect fit. Two rooms on either end, a central hallway, all utilities come to the hallway, and factories started churning out the hospitality, to the hospitality industry. Well, then that led to multifamily apartment complexes, and many of the new factories you see are doing that, but nobody's really scaling the single family side. And that's kind of what led us into our factory that we have here is we will do multifamily, but we primarily are a single family producer. But what I see in the industry changing now is the historic factories have done single family custom home building, and I see the industry changing to how do you do it in mass. They're getting back to kind of the manufacturing roots. How can I do it fast, quickly, and scale? Because we need lots of housing, preferably affordable housing that's affordable, and we need it fast and we need a lot of it. And I see a shift in the last 2 years or so of the industry. We have a lot of factories, folks like Vaughn Buckley, Zmod, I can name a bunch of Gurdon, Autoval, and they're all geared towards doing lots of multifamily development in scale. But now we're seeing single family home. How do we get single family build to rent? How do we find a way into that? And that's basically where we're trying to fill that niche, not large multifamily pounding out the same box 400 times for a construction project.
Is that your personal preference? You prefer to do something different each time?
Well, so again, I've got different parts of the business. We still have the Impresa Modular side that's doing custom home building, but at the factory, we do a limited amount of plans and we deliver for developers a very limited amount. So we're trying to get to, I'm going to use our term, curated house plan designs with limited color selections, both exterior and interior, so that you can have selections and the homes will look very nice. But from a factory perspective, it's essentially the same home, and I can have a limited set of SKUs and deliver. I mean, it's we're all suffering from supply chain issues now. And if I can, instead of buying enough siding per house, if I can buy truckloads of siding, and so a third of my houses are blue, a third are green, and a third are beige, that's what we're trying to do is how do we have limited color selections and give people kind of that feeling of a customized house that looks very nice, but it's something we can manufacture quickly.
So all the modular units that you all build are all wood construction, correct?
Right now, we're currently doing wood only construction, and I think we're going to change. It's going to evolve, but right now it's wood only.
So how have the lumber prices and all the instability of the last 2 years affected you all?
uh, um, House prices, we saw random, 1,000 foot board or board foot of lengths of lumber. We saw it go what the $1,650 or $1,650. Then it dropped back down into about the 600 range, and then it was up to what just a few days ago over 1,000 again. And I was actually just talking to our president of manufacturing operations, and OSB was at $32 a sheet. He thought that was high. Well, the next other person selling it was $34 or $54 a sheet. I mean, we thought it was coming down, and it's still insanely high. A few years ago, I could have got that for $8 or $9 a sheet. So now, wood makes up about 19% of the average house invoice. So it going up and down. But I know also that we took our first load, or took our load of one load of lumber at the end of December. We took our first load in January, and the price increased about 40% between two loads.
Wow.
So it's crazy, and everybody, I would love to be challenged on it, but what I see is, when people say, "Why aren't you doing late gauge steel? Do you do LGS?" But it seems like steel, which historically has been about a 25 or 35% bump over wood goes up, steel kind of says, let me do that too. And proportionally, they've stayed in about the same correlation, or at least what I've seen, over the period of time. So
Yeah.
it's, yeah,
So
that's
do
what we,
you think you all will move to alternative methods of construction, alternative building materials?
I think we will. I mean, we're trying to do a lot of, I'm going to call it my skunk works project here at this factory. Is I think you're going to see things that we're going to do, like we'll integrate concrete floors in our houses. So we'll be able to do slab on grade construction from the factory. That's something that I think has been holding back modular for a lot of years, because I call it the 2 floor issue. is most production developers that look at modular say, well, hold it, my foundation is a slab on grade, but my first floor is also integrated in that slab. I pay for it one time. With modular, current construction typically is I got to do a crawl space, or if I do a slab, I've got to put a sill plate around it, still put my house on it that has a floor, because in volumetric construction, my benefits come. I put my flooring in, my trim, my kitchen cabinets, everything is done. And if I don't have a wood floor at the factory, how can I do that? So you defeat the benefits of modular. But I will tell you, and this is a term I've coined recently, and I think it's getting some traction, is do the modular math. Is people have to see that speed, we're finally, because of the current market crisis, the speed of modular finally has a value. But with the speed of modular and the multifamily, it's been, or even the hospitality, I think one example the Marriott used was in California, they had like 192 key hotel they put up. It would have taken them 18 months to do that with conventional construction. For the box portion, the actual manufacturing, they probably paid $3 per square foot more for the actual construction as modular. And a lot of people think on a first cost basis, not final, they think first cost. So Marriott, with that mindset, would have said, well, I'm not paying $3 more per square foot. But they got that 18-month construction down to 6 months.
Oh, wow.
So now they had an extra year of operating revenue and said, well, this made complete sense, because an extra 12 months of operating revenue against that $3 per square foot, there was no comparison. It was a no-brainer to go to modular.
So that's from the time the first module was arrived to the job site and then till completion.
With everything, with the site work and everything prepped for it, because it was happening simultaneously, right?
Okay. But the modules were constructed before those 6 months?
No, they were constructed.
During
Well,
that time.
they would be constructed either probably right before or starting at about that time. But the on-site portion where they had to start paying was 6 months.
So how much of these modules are actually made in the factory, and how much do y'all do on site? Like the roof and everything, that's made on site, correct?
No, so so think about a hotel roof really as a flat roof. So it truly is a volumetric box. It's a rectangle, and you have a room on one end, a hotel room on the other. And so the FF&E is actually already in. The Marriott is bidding these so that the modular factory puts the beds in, the dressers, the desks, everything.
All that is installed in
all that's
factory.
installed, and they use material like a strapping to nail it through, say, the carpeted floor. They attach it to the floor so it doesn't move in transport. Then the hallway is the only finish area on site. So all the sprinklers, the supply lines, the waste lines, the electrical, they're all stubbed to the hallway. And so the hallway is left rough finished. And then you have all your verticals connecting everything that's stubbed into the hallway. Say if it's a 4-floor building, in some cases, depending on the type of construction, we might be able to go to five stories. All that stubbed to the hallway. Now the contractor on site is finishing the cladding on the exterior, finishing the hallway on site. As soon as the carpet goes in, somebody puts their booties on their feet. They go into the room with the key, and now all they have to do is put in the bed sheets, do the linens, and put the towels in the bathroom, and it's ready to go.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's literally to that level of finish. And hotels are flat roofs, so there's factories with different views to use an EPDM roof, TPO, whatever that is. Once you get the last layer on, you put your EPDM roof. I know some modular factories put EPDM on every module so that during set, because you also have to take into set, Melinda, is this set of 192 modules doesn't take place in a day.
Yeah.
This set is going to take place over 2 weeks or whatever, and you're going to have weather at that point, and that's the time we're exposed. So they put EPDM on every module, so at any point weather comes, the units are protected. And that's on, say, a flat roof hotel side. But now if you turn to the single family side, we're typically going to have a roof that's installed on a module that I called an origami roof.
You told me this last time, and I looked up a video. So these are like traditional pitched roofs that actually fold out, correct?
The eaves will flip over, the top will fold up, a knee wall will fall down, the peak will fold up, and the gable ends will pull in.
And
it's
that's
all
it.
done.
You've got
so
your pitched roof.
Yeah, and it's and that's how we assemble our roofs. And But people that I'm seeing, builders, are looking at the single family side and say, well, hold it, I see you on the multifamily side. They had a pro forma that said, hey, if I can get it up a year sooner, I have all this operating revenue, and it made sense. But you're charging me the same price for the modular as a cost to do me on for me to do it on site. And it's true. I mean, we're with material costs and everything today, we're virtually the same price as site built. You might see some occasional things where we're a few dollars less a square foot, but we're essentially the same. But I go to that builder and I'll say, well, how many houses could you do a year, and how many employees did you have? And they might have 10 employees and they can build 5 homes a year. So I say, what if I can? But you have customers that want a home? Yes, I have a pipeline that I could do 20 homes if I had the people. Well, what if I can give you a tool? So with modular, if I can tell you that you can do 10 homes per year more with those same 10 people. So if you were making $50,000 a home, just throwing out a number, and you multiply that times 10, that's $500,000 of profit. But if I can let you do 10 more homes a year with those same 10 people, that's modular math. That
Yeah.
means I use the same resources and I double or tripled your income with the same resources. That's modular math on the single family
But
side.
if the components going into a prefab, like a modular construction versus an on site construction, are the same, why is the speed of one so much faster than the speed of the other?
So typically what happens today is one. So for an example, we're working in a planned community here outside of the factory. So we use precast foundation systems also. So that means your foundation was built in a factory, just like a precast garage. It comes in panels on a flatbed truck. And in about 4 hours, we can install a 1,750 square foot house foundation, full basement with the garage walls in 4 hours. I can, that afternoon or the next day, I can put the sill plate on, and well planned, the next day I can put the house that's already being built at the factory during permitting and the things that had to happen, and that foundation being built and put in. So within, you know, ideally within probably 45 days, we will actually go from digging the first soil and clearing the lot to a CO on that house. And if we can work that cycle, if you talk to any production builder today, he typically was 45 to 60 days in a production cycle. But I'm on phone calls with these guys, usually monthly, and they're up to, they themselves now are 120 days with supply chain issues.
Wow.
They've doubled their production cycles. And we still, now the factory's dealing with all the headaches. What a lot of builders don't understand, or developers, or they're learning is, I'm dealing with all the supply chain headaches. It's my problem to make sure I have the siding and the doors and the windows and everything in place and deliver on schedule. I've removed so many of the headaches because they're getting a bigger volumetric box or piece, and I deliver it and I have to install that. They don't have to worry about did this light show up, or I don't have this light, things like that. So uh, it goes, and in the factory, we do plan. In our factory, we have a large factory. We have room to store all the materials inside.
Yeah.
The wood is acclimated to the site, but to the project, to the box, as we build it.
So you've
I mean,
mentioned volume several times in this discussion. And is that one of the main things you need to educate clients and customers about? Is like stop thinking about just square footages. Think about volume.
well, so I use the term because there's panelization. So in essence, locally our slang term is flat packing a house. Is a factory builds the walls and does the framing and delivers it in a flat pack, flatly packed on a flatbed truck, and now a framing crew assembles it on site. What we do is we deliver it volumetric, so it's in a box. It's already assembled with everything in, and I tell people, I'll go to a dinner and I'll be sitting beside a division president of a major home builder. And, over the years, I've kind of felt like the redheaded stepchild of the industry is, in the construction industry, because, oh, you're the modular guy. And so when they ask me at the dinner, what do you do? And I say, well, I use modular construction and produce homes. I kind of get that look like, okay. And then they start questioning me about it because they've heard about it and they want to learn. But they always say, one of the things they always say is, well, how can you ship all that air? How can you cost effectively ship that air? And so, my response is, but it's finished air. And they kind of give me that look like, what do you mean? And what they got to understand is I'm delivering the labor with the material. So what did it take to install that toilet? What did it take to install that floor? I just didn't deliver flooring to the site, and now they've got to schedule it, get the subcontractor, and they've got to coordinate all of that. I delivered the labor and the product inside of that volumetric box, so it's completely formed, and I delivered it. So there is a difference in the offsite construction world between panelization, which means you install it and still have to finish everything on site, and volumetric, which means it's pick a number, 65, 75, 85% done from the factory.
Another myth that you told me about the last time you spoke was size constraints. And I think this is extremely important. You told me that everyone thinks modular construction has to be constrained to the size of a flatbed, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't. Because
We, yeah, we, so right now, typical shipping widths are typically like 13 feet, 9 inches wide or 15 feet, 9 inches wide. And we can be very flexible in design with what that ultimately looks like on site. And we can ship in longer lengths. I mean, my factory here is typically limited to 56 feet. Some factories can go 76 feet, some even a little bit longer. I mean, depending on the location you're going to. We have heights of, we have a carrier we put it on, but we can achieve heights of, in this area, 14 feet, 13 feet, 6, sometimes taller. But we can just stack as many boxes, modules as you want together. We recently did a 7,000 square foot home in Pennsylvania. That was 12 modules. So we can build larger homes. We could do 20 modules for a single family home. But
and like
we
oversized, like you're not constrained to just the width. Oversized modules are not a big deal at all.
we do it all the time. And one of the things that we're doing in this factory is, people are, again, my Skunk Works project is we're going to do 20-foot wide modules out of this factory. And, we have a project here that we believe that, townhome project that modular has always been difficult to pencil, to price, because in a typical world, if you had a pony wall construction for, say, a foundation, a garage, and now you were going to frame out a wall above it. Now we were going to have 2 stories of townhouse above that. We would have typically had to deliver 4 modules, 4 10-foot wide modules to stack up to make that townhome. If I can do 20 wide modules, now I have 1 module on the first floor, 1 module, say, on that second floor, and the modules are completely finished inside. Everything's done. So all I'm doing is a top and bottom intermodule connection. And so now it's just plumbing and electrical, but that within days, that house could be ready to live in. And we can put them together, firewalls end to end. And so that's our goal by later this year to be offering, by end of year, to be offering 20 wide modules.
Do you see a big increase in demand for modular construction over the last 2 years? People coming to you for advice because of all the struggles that they faced?
I will tell you, and it started pre-COVID. As you know, I speak at the International Builder Show each year, and I jokingly said I felt like the redheaded stepchild of the industry. And up until the year of 2020, that's the way it really was. I mean, it was, everybody kind of turned their head. I've heard of modular. It really doesn't work for me. I don't understand it. They confused it with mobile homes, intermine trailers. And in 2020, I had basically, it was, except for one session, which there was somebody in every seat, but the other 3 sessions, it was standing room only. People couldn't get in. They could not find anything on modular, and they were hungry for the information. And we had a booth there, and it was amazing, just people coming in. And we had the booth really for our franchising. That's what, like I said, we introduced franchising, and probably 85 to 90% of the people that came to our booth were developers looking to figure out how to use modular. And I think at the International Builder Show next week, I think it's going to be off the chart. I mean, I am followed up with, on LinkedIn with, probably daily get 1 or 2 inquiries about developers trying to figure out how to use modular. And it's just, I think this is, the perfect storm of what the COVID has created with the supply chain issues, the volatile pricing for basic materials, and labor has never been more scarce in the construction industry. And if you're a developer, I mean, if you're a big builder, I'm on the phone with community developments, the economic development directors in cities, the housing authorities, and they'll tell me the big builders, they've got a community that they just got 1,000 homes approved, 800 homes approved, and they have no clue how they're going to build
Oh,
them. It makes the news, but how are you going to build them? How are you going to deliver? And we're starting to see some of the big builders starting to look at off-site construction, and we'll see how that works. I mean, they have a pretty ingrained way of how they do it. That's in their processes, but even the biggest ones they know they can't keep doing it the same way.
yeah, something has to change.
Something has to change, and it can't just, again, you can't just hire another
Yeah,
subcontractor or get a better piece of material. It's fundamentally something has
something
to
else.
change.
How would you distinguish modular construction from prefab?
So, I would definitionally, everything, everything that's modular is prefab, but not all prefab is modular. And I do it that way is, prefab is a term that was coined that really encompasses panelized construction, modular construction, a lot, many offsite systems. Um, Modular itself is taking prefab materials, assembling more of them inside of a manufacturing environment. And again, go back to my volumetric term, delivered in volumetric fashion to the site in a more complete method.
So, what's one piece of advice you would give to someone out there who's looking to enter the modular construction industry or understand what it's about?
Uh, what I always, everybody is, and depending on your level, if you're as simple as a 5 home a year builder, you need to work with your factory to find, I'm going to say, a buddy, a mentor. Um, your typical factory, and I'm not trying to knock a factory, but a factory does exactly what it's supposed to do. It's a manufacturer. It's not a builder. We've turned construction into a manufacturing process. A builder is out in the dirt, in the weather, dealing with uneven ground, trying to deal with all the complexities of coordinating everything. And this is a whole new modality of construction. I mean, this is changing your systems. You're not going to show up on day one with a framing crew when you set a home. And if you do that, you just wasted a lot of money because you don't need a framing crew during a home set. If you're scoping this to your subcontractors to say, hey, I need you to bid this package to finish my modular home, and the plumber has never done it before, he's going to bid high. So all of a sudden, you thought you were going to use modular construction to hopefully make more money faster, and now all of a sudden it cost you more and it took longer because you just didn't know how to scope it, how to change your project schedule,
And
how to
how to change
price,
your mindset.
how to change your mindset. And that's, again, that was really the impetus of us creating the franchise, was for us to be that buddy
Yeah.
and give you a builder in a box for modular. But what we're seeing now is developers calling us because they need to sell land, they need to sell their project, they need to get houses on the land, and they're trying to figure it out, and they've discovered modular. And so we're getting calls from them, and they really need to figure out, work with a partner that's done this before, and they may go off on their own at some point. But there is a learning curve, and if you don't have the right partner, that learning curve is going to be cheap, painful, and expensive. I mean, excuse me, painful and expensive.
Yeah.
It's and what happens when it's painful and expensive, you don't want to do it again. And I don't think that's being fair to the system at
When it's
all.
your own
And fair
fault,
to your,
it's not the system's fault. Yeah.
right. And so it's how do we help you help yourself as an industry? And I think that's where we're at with modular and offsite. I think finally people are discovering this is the better way, but we've got to help them get through that initial learning curve and get the process down.
So, what are your plans for the rest of the year? I know you were building a new facility in South Carolina.
Yes, so we have a lot going on, Belinda. Um, so we have our franchising that's really starting to take off, and that's great. We're bringing that on. We have a facility here, Impresa Building Systems in Greenwood, South Carolina, and it's been really great. I mean, we bought a 231,000 square foot facility that was previously a metal fabrication plant. We are doing the structural modifications. We have actually started production in what we call build in place line as we get the main line running. So we took this over September 1st, and we have our first houses coming out next week. And so, in about 6 months, less than 6 months, we've started churning houses out instead of the 18 months that most people, start with a factory. We have another facility that we'll start probably a steel fabrication shop in, and we have a production building. We're working with it's called Savannah Lakes Village, which is a master planned community. We have several thousand lots that we plan on putting houses on in that community, and we'll churn through that. It's a lakeside community, so it's not a curb and gutter kind of community. It's a lakeside community, so it offers its own challenges with all the downslope lots, but that's what makes it interesting. And we're trying to do a number of things out of this factory that are going to be, I'm not going to say revolutionary because they've been done in other places, but we'll try to do the 20 wide modules. We'll start doing houses built on slab and deliver the slab with the house. But I think what we're going to see is we probably have some good news here already is we have another factory probably that we are partnering to create, and I think we'll be making some more news here soon with another factory location.
Congrats.
And I really see the opportunity. It's as we have this factory starting to churn and crank, and as we continue to get more success, it's just opportunities continue to present themselves, and we're really taking advantage of the industry's fascination with modular and the want and the sheer need of the public that needs affordable housing fast, and we can do that.
So you've probably heard of Boxable, based out in Nevada, I think. And they're all over social media and LinkedIn, and everyone's talking about them. So what's the difference between Boxable and what y'all are doing?
Boxable's really they got a nice factory started out in Nevada. It's a father or son, I believe, that have really just been going at it hard. I was actually in San Francisco with the father 2 weeks ago when we were out at the Katera plant. He was part of that event that we had. And the son I've met on the Washington D.C. at the mall when they started presenting their Boxable and the fold out house. So I think they've got a process, and as we go through how do we provide housing to America in scale, there's going to be a lot of people come up with a lot of different ways. What I said when we started this podcast was it's geographically speaking, construction is very different around the country. And there's a lot of people who will take or accept or want houses in different fashions. We have a large population. And so I think there's markets for a lot of different things. And I think Boxable starting out, they have, that first, like you say, in social media, got a lot of traction with their $50,000 house. And I think they're going to find their markets for that, because the ADU market that, being in Nevada, do you ship to LA? Do you ship up, to San Francisco, or all of California is a great opportunity for ADUs, and with lots of different housing issues that they're having. But getting traction in a broader market, when they start to get bigger, that's what they're trying to figure out is how can they deliver a product that is going to be accepted by the broader masses, but they probably could make a good living producing everything out of that factory, sending it to California for a long time. And I think, again, we're going to have lots of factories figure out ways to do it. But
so it's a different niche than what you are tackling. That's more of an ADU, and you're more of a single family home.
A broader single family home. And I know that they will try to work, or they are working to try to grow into that market. But it's just like I'm in South Carolina, a square box, flat top, mid-century modern contemporary home isn't the kind of home that sells in South Carolina. So, but in Southern California, the low country pitched roof porches aren't what they're looking for in Los Angeles. Again, it's you sell the house or the product that meets your market. And, and I wish everybody success. There's so much opportunity right now that, I tell, every time I meet somebody at a factory, it's, I'll just throw out, some kudos, Vaughn with the Vaughn Buckley that, took on the Katera plant. He opened up the plant a few weeks ago to lots of modular manufacturers across the country. And, hey, take pictures, but see everything. Let's talk, let's share. And that's what we're going to do, because for the next 15, 20 years, I don't see competing. We're not competing with anybody. It's how many homes can we build and sell. There's just that much
There's
opportunity.
enough demand, yeah.
So how can we as an industry, and that's one of the things, I work in both the National Association of Home Builders and the Modular Home Builders Association. I work to promote this industry, and there's a nobody doing a best practices. Luckily, I've been in 20, 25 factories that I've worked with. I've been actually in more than that. And I've seen what I would call best practices across the country. And I think I've been privileged to be able to have that opportunity that most people, almost nobody's ever had. So I get to take what I've seen, best practices, and bring it to what we're doing here in this factory, because every factory does something really good that I can, pull that piece out of and try to implement here. And I will tell you, our factory here is not going to be it currently is not a robotic type automotive assembly plant. That's I kind of, I guess I've coined the term advanced mechanization. Our goal is to how can we use still jigs and some automation where it makes sense, but we're here just doing bread and butter. We want to put out a very good home as fast as we can at the highest quality at the best price that really is going to serve a single family home developer or a build to rent developer market.
So thank you, Ken, for sharing all that advice with us, and best of luck with your speech at the International Builder Show next week. And I'll provide a link in the description if people want to watch that. It'll be
Okay.
recorded, right?
It's supposed to be recorded, but I think it's available for attendees of the show. I don't know if they're just making it available to everybody, but they are recording all the main IBS education.
What's your speech going to be about?
So I've got two. I'll be on a panel with David Cooper and Rick Murdoch from Caleb, which is one of the participants from Autoval. And so that's really just a panel about how to use kind of what we cover here a lot of, using offsite construction for development. How can it play into what your plans are? The second one I'll be doing, it's using uh, designing for custom modular homes. How do you design for custom modular homes? And and that's one for, again, that small home builder that wants to get into it and they don't understand. I don't want to say, your architect background is, I tell people that people are saying, well, modular is constraining, it has these limitations. And it's like, no, look at it as a house style. If you were going to do a house in a Victorian style,
You would
it
pick
wouldn't have a
certain
flat roof.
elements, yeah.
There's certain elements and it's got a flat roof. And even if you like a flat roof, well, that doesn't play in a Victorian style. You're going to be putting a turret on it. You're going to be putting a porch on with lots of decor and decoration. That's what you're going to do on a Victorian. So that's modular. Is I'm going to give you a set of constraints and a discipline, and you build within that discipline. And people build very beautiful Victorian homes within that discipline, and I can build very beautiful modular homes, but that's what makes it fun, is the challenge of how do I create. And that's what I try to get people to think of. And but we transfer load differently. So when we were talking earlier about the widths, i can't go I can't take a 30-foot wide house and have no support in the middle of it, because I can't just use a 30-foot truss and a roof truss or whatever. I transfer load on the outside walls and wherever baiting takes place at the mate walls attached. And so I've got to account for how do I transfer that load to a foundation. And you just got to think about that. And if large spans, but can I use steel flitch plates? And on a residential side, flitch plates get used. You sandwich the steel in between, say, an LVL or dimensional lumber, and that might let me span 26, 30 feet in a residential, and between mate walls. And if you have a 20 or 30-foot opening, that's in a residential world, that's a nice open house where modules came together. And it's just, even factories don't understand the materials and the products that are available for them to use. And so I've been at factories where they say, we can't do that. And I say, yes, you can. And they say, but how? And I show their engineers and designers how to use the material to achieve the customer's requirement. And again, it's how can we help the industry grow and make people think a little differently, even in our industry.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Ken. Once again, really appreciate all the advice you've shared with us.
Okay, thank you, Belinda. Have a great evening.
So Ken Semler seems like he might be the perfect person to actually make modular construction boom in the suburban home industry.
In the States.
Yes, because it seems like there's, as we spoke about earlier, there's this misconception that modular construction is always this small sort of container style home, something similar to what Boxable does. But Ken's actually building just traditional farmhouse style homes, I would say.
Yeah, you're right. He's appealing to that audience that is not as excited about contemporary modern homes as we are. They are more comfortable with traditional designs, and seeing Ken come in and say, "Hey, you don't have to completely change what you consider to be good. I can show you how to build better, how to build modular, and still get the look you want."
That's what I really like about it, is that he's not trying to pigeonhole himself into the accepted modular style.
I love how far we have come since architecture school, because I feel like in school we are brainwashed to think that one way is good and every way is bad. Suburban homes are bad, suburban lifestyle is bad, the traditional design is bad. And we have come to realize and appreciate the value in each type of design. And it's good. It's a good thing for people to like different things. You can't force your one design or beliefs on everyone.
They try to do that in architecture school.
They do, yeah, but that's very different than reality. And I love how we've grown since then to appreciate traditional design.
I guess they're trying to do that in architecture school to give you the other side, because when you're young, that's all you've ever seen is these traditional homes, and they're saying, hey, there's more to it. There's these interesting homes that are interesting buildings that have a unique architectural style to them. But then you get into the real world and at a commercial architecture firm, and it's just boring boxes or something, or traditional suburban style homes.
Such a big disconnect between school and reality.
Yeah, it seems like in architecture school, they push this idea of a modular design. Everything needs to be a kit of parts or flat packed so that you can be mobile and bring it onto the site and erect it quick and things like that, which is funny because I actually did my thesis on basically a mobile home for an urban environment.
I think every professor, every architecture student has had a professor that wanted a kit of parts project.
I'm guilty of being obsessed with that as well. And that's one thing I haven't lost. I'm still obsessed with that. And I love the idea of modular construction, but you have to realize, and this is something it's taken me a while to realize, is that you can't force your style on other people. Like no one else in my family would want to live in the style of home that I would like to live in.
So with Ken's route, a younger architecture student or a younger architect could still be able to design modular, but then sacrifice the contemporary look and give in to the needs of the client and design something more traditional.
And to be fair, Ken's website does have some contemporary style homes on it, but I doubt that that's one of the more common home types that he builds. But I think the nuts and bolts of what modular is and what gets me excited is what's going on in the factory, the whole prefabricated part of it. And he spoke about the difference between prefab and modular, and just saying that modular is a type of prefab.
The other thing is that construction is such a difficult industry to automate. There's so many variables involved. And I think jumping to final full automation is nearly impossible. And I think we need steps along the way. So even though what Ken's doing, modular construction is still done manually, it is a step to automation.
Yes, because we've seen that there are factories out there that can create these modules using robots, using some form of automation. Maybe it's not 100% of it.
It's a hybrid.
But the more you can automate, the better. The more labor you save, the more time you save.
So I spoke to a guy last year who told me something very interesting. I don't remember who it was. Maybe it was Ken. But I was asking him, why isn't modular as popular in the States as it is abroad, like in Europe? They're much more open to the idea of modular construction. And he said it goes back to human psychology and goes back to World War II. After World War II, millions of homes were decimated. And they had to have massive rebuilding programs in a lot of different countries. And the only way that they could rebuild fast enough was to build cookie-cutter homes. There was no time to ask people, what do you want? It was just, this is what you're getting, live with it. And in the States, they didn't have that massive rebuilding program. So people here still want to put their style, their thumbprint on a home. They want to make it different than their neighbors.
They want it to be the same, but different.
Yes. They don't want it to look exactly like their neighbors. So that's a very interesting philosophy. Like it goes back to human perception of what your home should be.
It's so interesting to see how each different country adapted to how their cities were devastated and what they did. And there were a lot of modernist architects that came up with these proposals for these grand cities and how they could just reorganize everything and have green space in the center and move everything outwards from there. Le Corbusier was a big one who would do things like that. And he'd have these big social housing, brutalist structures. And having been to the Netherlands, seeing how that country was devastated and how they rebuilt, they took an approach of, we're going to do everything contemporary. Why not? Why stick to this traditional neoclassical style? Let's do it in a contemporary fashion. They still have their old downtown Amsterdam, which is their traditional architecture, but they've developed their own new sort of Scandinavian style from that.
That's fascinating. So just because that rebuilding program, it's changed the way the city builds, changed building codes.
Changed their culture.
Changed their culture. Oh, that's fascinating.
So when it comes to building our own house, if we were to do that, would you be opposed to building modularly?
I think it's an excellent design constraint. It's not just a plot of land with the pad. It's like, hey, I want you to think in terms of dimensions.
That was one thing I wanted to mention, was the fact that you can automate as much as possible with this prefabrication, doing it on in a factory and everything, but there is still on-site work that has to happen. You'll never get away from that pouring that slab and making sure your pad's level and things like that. There's always some form of on-site work, and they have to connect the modules together, and that has to be done. It has to be done well so that you don't have any leaks or anything like that.
We just watched a show last night on exactly what we're talking about. They poured the slab on site, and then they had these prefab panels coming from Poland all the way to the United Kingdom. And then they used this unique strapping mechanism to attach the wall to the slab. And they had a little capsule of resin that they put in the concrete, and then they broke the capsule with a screw, and that hardened the resin and kept the wall in place. Oh, it's fascinating.
It requires, I guess Ken said this as well, but it requires a new way of thinking. And that was really nice to hear him talk about. Plumbers have to think differently. Electricians have to think differently. Everyone has to sort of change their mindset and understand how modular construction works. So when you say there's these constraints to modular construction, I see it as an opportunity to create something new.
Exactly. We've been doing the same thing for so long. Why not do something just a little bit different? It's not a big deal to just alter the way you think or the way you build if it's going to be better.
And the house can still look the same.
So hope you enjoyed our discussion about modular construction. Thanks again to Ken Semler for sharing his invaluable knowledge with us. Join us next week for another episode on building science, products, and technology.